dire, ok. Bah oui.
Good morning, bonjour. I hope everyone has had a nice Saturday so far. I'm so excited to welcome you to this session. My name is Katie Morgan. I am the climate lead at MIT Solve, and I welcome you to the session where we're going to be talking about the unknown challenges of ocean preservation. Over the past few days, we've explored bold solutions to our planet, but some of the most urgent challenges we face are still hidden beneath the surface. From fragile ecosystems threatened by climate change to overlooked marine heroes like plankton and seaweed, the ocean holds both mysteries and the answers. In this session, we'll hear extraordinary voices who are expanding the conversation around ocean health, from freedivers to scientists to entrepreneurs and policy leaders. Together, they're going to help us explore what it takes to protect the ocean's most overlooked wonders and why this work is absolutely essential to solving the planetary crises we face. To start us off, it is my pleasure to have Vincent Doumeizel join me on stage. With 20 years' experience in the food industry, Vincent serves as a senior advisor to the UN Global Compact and leads the Global Seaweed Coalition, a network of over 2,000 seaweed stakeholders worldwide. This past year, he convened 35 leading plankton experts from around the globe to release the Plankton Manifesto, a call to recognize one of the greatest unsung heroes supporting our ecosystems and all of life on Earth. Help me welcoming Vincent to stage. Hi, Vincent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Vincent, you've spent so much of your career dedicated to championing sustainable food systems, raising awareness for seaweeds' role in planetary health, but recently, you've taken a little bit of a shift. You've turned your focus towards another ocean superstar, plankton. Would love to hear about what inspired this shift and why you now believe now is the time that we should be talking about plankton on a global stage.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, nothing grows in isolation, and seaweed grows with the help of a black box, which is unknown to everyone, which is plankton. So what is plankton? Plankton is anything that does not go against the current, that is drifting in the ocean. So it's a very, very wide range of organisms, which goes from picoscopic virus, to the longest animal on the planet, which is a siphonophore, which is a long animal of 120 meters long. So typically, if you take the smallest plankton and the largest plankton, it would be the same to compare the size of a ant with the size of the Great Britain. So it's kind of a wide range of organisms. And actually, plankton represents 90% of life history on the planet. So it has shaped the planet. Evolution was triggered by this capacity of this small and invisible organism to drift in the ocean, to meet each other, even before muscle or anything was organized to enable movement. The different organisms met and shared and mixed in order to evolve, create evolution. So plankton has shaped the planet. It has created the oxygen. It has created the rocks. It has created the oil. Every year we are burning 1 million years of sedimented plankton using oil and gas. It has shaped everything we have around us. It is the basis of any form of life on the planet. So we all come from plankton, all type of organism, and over the last 4 billion years of evolution. So, and you know, at some point, if you want to rebuild a house, you don't start with the roof, you start with the basement.
Yeah.
And the basement of life on the planet is plankton. The problem is plankton is invisible, most of it, because it's very small. So it's unknown, it's an unsung hero, but it's really the core and the basis of everything. We live on a plankton planet, and actually plankton is the same word as planet. It comes from the same origin, etymology, so it's drifting in the ocean just like the planet is drifting in the universe. So we are a plankton planet, basically, and I think it's time to to turn our gaze to plankton because it has shaped the history and it can really save our future.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important shift in your career to make sure that the unsung heroes are being seen. So let's talk about the Plankton Manifesto. You make the case that plankton are essential to addressing the triple planetary crisis, so biodiversity loss, climate change, and pollution. Can you walk us through why plankton matters so deeply to these challenges?
Sure, yeah, we gathered the top 30 scientists on plankton over the last year to build a 20-page document, the Plankton Manifesto, telling the full story about plankton and what is the potential. So people from all over the world gathered, and we released this document at the United Nations General Assembly last September in New York. And it's so important because, once again, the plankton has shaped the planet. I mean, the weather we have, the climate we have is because of plankton. It has made the planet very, very warm at some point, very, very cold at the other point. The plankton communities that are living on the planet will define if it sequesters carbon or if it releases carbon in the atmosphere and so forth. So it can really control what's happening on the planet. It can clean our ocean, clean the planet as well, recycle everything. All the bio and the geochemical cycles depends from plankton. So it will, oxygen, clean water, fresh water, nitrogen, phosphate, everything, carbon of course, everything goes through plankton to be recycled. So if we don't understand what's going there, we cannot address any of the global challenges we have. So we need to understand what is the role of plankton, and the role is absolutely massive, because the production of plankton every day is incredible. Every day, the daily production of just the phytoplankton, if it was a plank of wood, it would go from the planet to the moon every day. So that's the daily production of plankton. So it's absolutely massive, and that's, once again, we don't know much about it. It's only 10 years that we have started to understand what plankton can do and is doing. So this invisible world is really, really interesting.
It's also the base of the marine food chain, right? So
of
it's
course,
playing
yeah.
a really important role in our fisheries systems and making sure that the animals in the ocean
everything, because the birds and so forth, we saw all these marine birds which are disappearing because of a lack of plankton, basically. So yeah, it is the basis of the marine food chain. And we know today that our ocean covers 70% of the planet, but contribute to less than 2% of our food. So we are relying to produce our food production. We are relying only on less than 1/3 of the planet, and we totally neglect these two other thirds that are in the water. And if we want to promote this food production from the water to end starvation and to combat world hunger, we need to understand how this food is created.
Right.
And this food is created by plankton. That's the source of anything in the ocean. This primary production is a planktonic one.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of the technologies in this space. So my job at MIT Solve, I spent a lot of time thinking about the new technologies that are coming on the scene. And when we were talking, there was a lot of talk around the innovation in this space. So the innovation that's unlocking exciting new plankton-based solutions. What are some examples that you've seen here that are coming out?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of new product in medicine, new product to clean the ocean, to clean the air. You were a demonstrator here in ChangeNOW to cleaning the air using plankton. The thing, what we need to understand is that this new technology that you are talking about has enabled to understand what is plankton. We didn't know anything. Back 20 years ago, we knew 40 viruses in the ocean, 40 viruses. Today, we know more than 500,000 viruses in the ocean. So within 20 years, we discovered 500,000 viruses in the ocean. We discovered 150 million new genes in the ocean. That's massive because of this convergence of new technology, AI, satellite, gene sequencing, which is so important to understand what is invisible. So all these millions of new genes and 150 million new genes, it's massive. I mean, we have 20,000 genes in our body. So it's an unlimited potential of innovation that is coming, and it's a new age of discovery right now. I mean, the 19th century has been a very important part in the age of discovery with Darwin, Haeckel, and all these big scientists and these very famous researchers. And it was a step change in our understanding of the world. But this step change, this understanding of the world was limited to the visible world. Now we have to move to the invisible world, and most of it lies in the ocean. Because the ocean represents 96% of the inhabitable space on the planet. So most of life is below water. And we have to understand what's happening there and what is happening in this invisible world. And we can understand that because of this new technology. Without satellite to see the color of the ocean, which are defined by plankton, without gene sequencing, without AI, without drones to go in the water, we cannot understand anything. So it's not existing because it's in our mind, in our imagination, because there was no way for us to understand it. But now we have this possibility to understand it, and it's just starting, and you see the explosion of researches and publication over the last 10 years on plankton. Is just fascinating. And we are on the eve of something very, very big, a new age of discovery that will bring together our planet and our Gaia thing. This Gaia concept emerged from plankton, basically, initially, because Lovelock, the guy who developed the Gaia theory, realized that when the climate is increasing, plankton create a gas that will create clouds and that will cool down the planet. So there's like a mechanism to regulate climate on the planet from the ocean somehow. So that was the fundamental of the Gaia theory back in the 70s. Right. And it was hard to explain that, but now with this new technology, we are able to explain how the Earth, how this global organism can really behave and organize himself. But the secret of it lies in the ocean, where everything started, and we have to get into that to understand that. But there's a lot of new, very fascinating projects at the moment, Tara being one of them, Tara Foundation, of course. Yeah. But there's a lot of new projects that are trying to address and understand that, and it's quite fascinating, and I think it's a source of hope and optimism for all of us, because there's so much untapped potential there, so much things to discover, so much things to innovate, to create. So it's a great source of optimism and hope for all of us, and I think we all need hope and optimism.
Yeah, now that you've got us all excited about plankton, I want to hear, for those of us here, whether we're scientists ourselves, investors, policymakers, citizens, what can we do to support this work and make sure that plankton stays a part of the conversation around climate and biodiversity moving forward?
Well, I think there's a big problem in education. We should know, no one knows what is plankton because once again it's invisible, but we should know what is plankton just like we know what is a lion or a monkey. It should be as familiar to us because it's everywhere. It's a source of life, once again. So I think there's a big piece of education. We should get interested into it. Some plankton are getting more and more popular. Spirulina, for instance, is a planktonic organism. And we all know spirulina, I think, and we all know how good it is. Mm-hmm. It's a very good source of nutrients. In general, plankton is abundant in everything we need, because once again, it has shaped our organism, so it is very well connected with it. So we should try to eat some when we can, get interested into that, talk about it, spread the word, spread this plankton gospel around the world, try to make the people understand that it's something unknown, it's an unsung hero, but it's there, and it's there to stay. And the thing is that the change in plankton community will affect our life and may endanger our life, but plankton is here to stay. They will not disappear. They will change, which will in the end lead us to extinction, maybe, as it did with many other species over the last 4 billion years. But the question is, if we understand plankton, then we can preserve these existing communities that are there at the moment and then protect us. And I think that's the idea. So I think it's for the benefit of all of us to get interested into that, to support science, to support education, try to understand what we can do. There's a lot of innovation related to plankton at the moment, but we are in the very, very, very early stage. So it's hard to relate that in our daily life, but there is still some. And so start to eat spirulina and some other stuff like this to support the development in this planktonic world. is a good way to start.
And there's some important meetings coming up the rest of this year. There's the UN Ocean Conference in June, and then we have, of course, COP30 in Brazil in November. And it's really great to see some of the conversations around oceans. But I know that talking with you is maybe that plankton piece is being left out a little bit. So what are you doing to make sure that plankton is on the stage at these important meetings coming up the rest of the year?
We will be in New York. We have a Plankton Day on the 11th of June with an event at the CNRS laboratory in Villefranche-sur-Mer. I mean, that old Plankton Manifesto story came from the fact that I realized that in COP28, out of 300 presentations, not a single one was about plankton. And plankton absorb 30%, 1/3 of the global emission are absorbed by the ocean. And most of this biological pump is made from plankton. So we do not talk at the climate conference, we do not talk about something that absorbs almost 1/3 of the emission. It's just insane. It's absolutely insane. Same with the COP biodiversity. I mean, out of 300 presentations in Cali last year, we had one about plankton, which is, once again, supporting and has created the entire biodiversity, and is the biggest source of biodiversity. So it's just insane. It's totally absent of any global discussions. And we should talk about MPAs for plankton somehow, but we don't. So it's time to do. I mean, there will be a big talks at the UNOC. We will be in Rio as well, of course. So it's time to bring plankton into visibility there and make people aware of the role that plankton is playing on the planet.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this conversation has sparked some excitement about plankton with the folks that are listening. I know you have an exciting book coming out in May. Tell us a little bit more about that and what's coming out and why folks should be interested in it.
Yeah, I wrote a book about plankton. I mean, the Plankton Manifesto had to be 20 pages, but there's so much things to say about plankton, so much stories about the world and all the plankton created life and how it evolved, what are the potential innovations. There's so much of them. There's so much biomimicking to be made. There's so much solution for the climate, for the environment, for pollution, how plankton can degrade plastic and so forth. There's so many things to say, so I decided to write a book. So that I also realize with my seaweed stories that books are a very strong, we live in a digital world, but books are still very powerful to bring the change, which is really good for all of us, I think. So writing a book, the Plankton Manifesto, the Manifeste du Plankton en français, released at the end of this month and translated in English by the end of the year. It's time to, that will be part of the advocacy work that we are leading, because we need to be aware of the potential for plankton and make sure that it is respected in the right way. And we should do that in the right way as well. That's another very important point.
Absolutely. I think you've done a really good job of being a PR agent for plankton, which I think we all know the ocean needs a better PR agent. So I appreciate your role in that. If folks were leaving today with one thing that you want them to leave with about plankton, maybe it's not something they've really ever thought about, right? That a lot of their breath, their oxygen is coming from this organism, that it's in their foods. What would you want folks to leave with?
Well, it's everywhere. The rocks, the cliffs of Dovers and the Falaise d'Étretat, they are all made in plankton. The shark we have at school, they are made in dead plankton. I mean, we are here above dead plankton. I mean, the bassin parisien has been made of dead plankton. So it's everywhere. Once again, the oil, the air we breathe, everything, the animal we feed. And once again, understanding this enable an unlimited potential for innovation. But we have to make sure, something very important, we have to make sure that this innovation, this unlimited potential is managed in the right way. Something that is very worrying me at the moment, we now discover the potential of marine gene, all these new technologies that are coming. But we need to make sure that it is done in an equitable way and a fair way. I'm very worried when I see that the first license on a marine gene was in 1988. Today we have more than 15,000 licenses on marine genes. Half of them belongs to BASF, the private company, the chemical producers. Half of them. and which is more than the 200 other companies owning marine gene licenses. 3 countries own 75% of the marine gene licenses, and 10 richest country, the 10 richest country, they own 98% of the marine gene licenses. So we are at risk of a new neocolonialism on marine gene. We preempt and concentrate all this knowledge, all this innovation, which is very much at risk, because what is in the ocean does not belong to anyone, but no, it does. And that's a very worrying problem, so we have to be aware that there's a big geopolitical issue behind this. So it's really time to discuss and to understand how to preserve life as it is on the planet, and plankton is a very, very powerful ally to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Vincent, for sharing your passion for plankton. I think it has spread to others here today, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Next up, we are going to be joined on stage by 2 incredible ocean advocates. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Anne-Sophie, who is an ocean activist and policy advisor specializing in deep sea mining and the high seas protection. In 2021, she co-founded the Look Down movement, a global youth coalition calling for the halt to deep sea mining. She is currently serving as an advisor to the Minister of the Sea for France. And Elena is the co-founder and CTO of SOS Biotech, the first blue tech company in the Dominican Republic, pioneering the transformation of invasive seaweed into high-value sustainable products for agriculture, cosmetics, and biomaterials. Elena is committed to sustainable ocean solutions and dedicated to positioning the Caribbean as a global blue hub, creating jobs, empowering local communities, and proving that profitability doesn't have to come at the expense of the people or the planet. Join me in welcoming Anne-Sophie and Elena. Hi, both. I'm so excited to talk with you today. I love the woman power on this stage around oceans. I want to start with you and Sophie. You both are tackling complex and often overlooked ocean challenges, from invasive species, Elena, to deep sea mining. And I want to start thinking about, for those that are not familiar in the audience, what exactly is deep sea mining, and why is it such a concern?
Indeed, deep sea mining is usually not very well known by the great public. However, it concerns half the surface of our planet. The deep sea is basically the biggest ecosystem we have on Earth, and deep sea mining is a new industry that has not started yet, but that can start in the coming month, and that aims at extracting metals at the bottom of the ocean. And the scientific community is very concerned about this industry because it would have irreversible consequences on the ocean, on marine biodiversity, from the bottom to the surface, on fisheries, on our economies, and on our global climate. And because of these impacts, the scientific community calls for a global moratorium on deep sea mining, also because we know very little about the deep sea. 90% of the species that live in the deep sea have not yet been described by science. So it's basically our last frontier, the last wilderness we have, and we have a few mining companies, and now we have Trump. We are going to talk about that right after. That is willing to go against international law and the scientific consensus to mine the deep sea. So it is a very urgent topic which everyone should be hearing about.
Yeah, indeed. We'll dive into that a little bit. Elena, I want to turn to you next. Your company, SOS Biotech, is transforming a coastal crisis into a regional opportunity. Can you tell us about the impact of sargassum blooms on the Caribbean coastlines and how your work is regenerating environmental, economic, and social value?
Sure. Well, first of all, how many of you have heard about invasive seaweed? Please raise your hands. Okay,
That's
pretty
pretty
good.
good,
I'm really
yeah.
happy about that. For the ones that you don't know, seaweeds are our friends. That's true. We can't deny that. But as everything in this life, in huge quantities, they are a huge problem. In the Caribbean in specific, we are having something called massive invasions of sargassum. Sargassum is a brown seaweed that used to grow happily in the Sargasso Sea, the only sea in the world that is only surrounded by currents, not by land. But recently, due to increased CO2, ocean surface, and changes in currents, such as also runoff from land, it has found in the rest of the Atlantic the perfect environment, the perfect storm has been created for it to massively proliferate. So now, every year in the Caribbean, we are receiving over 20 million tons of sargassum. Sargassum is bulking on our shores, and when it's decomposing and rotting, it releases toxic gases such as CO2, methane, and hydrogen sulfide. This has created a triple crisis. This is why this is an unknown challenge. It's a social, economic, and environmental crisis. But, as Katie already hinted, we have found hope in this crisis. And we are transforming this crisis into a triple benefit for the society, for the environment, and for the economy too. What we do, to summarize, is we transform local boats, local fishermen boats, into seaweed harvesters with a system we patent called the littoral collection module. And we employ local fishermen from this harvesting process. One boat per hour has the capacity to harvest 10 tons, so pretty good. And then we have a biorefinery where we extract all the cool things in seaweed, because they are our friends, to create different products for the market, for the agriculture, for the cosmetic, and even for the biomaterials. So in this way, we are taking a coastal crisis into a social, economic, and environmental benefit.
Amazing. You know I'm a fan of the work that you do. And Sophie, you alluded to this, but yesterday I got an alert on my phone that said that Donald Trump had signed an executive order giving the okay for the U.S. and for in international waters to kick off deep sea mining again. Tell us why that is a really important piece of news for us to be paying attention to.
So yeah, this is very fresh news, and we had very short nights since the announcement of this executive order. But basically, maybe to set up a very quick context, deep sea mining in international waters, aka half the surface of our planet, is managed by an international organization that is called the International Seabed Authority. It's a UN agency where basically 170 countries are negotiating about the regulations to open the doors or not to deep sea mining. So this is how the UN multilateral system works. And this organization has been existing since 30 years. And you have countries like, even the countries that are for deep sea mining, not to name them Russia and China, are negotiating in the framework of this multilateral instance. And basically what Donald Trump has announced last night is, one, to start deep sea mining in US waters. And in US waters, of course, the US is sovereign. They can do whatever they want in US waters. And in international waters. And what that means is that Donald Trump wants to go unilaterally to mine the deep sea, so half the surface of our planet, outside of the multilateral framework, therefore in violation of international law. And so this is not only an environmental issue, because it would basically open the doors to this very destructive industry, but it's also a diplomatic and a legal issue because it's basically an insult to the 170 countries that have been negotiating for years and years about deep sea mining. And what that means concretely, in terms of calendar, we have 2 months before the first exploitation contracts are put on the table by mining companies to go mine the deep sea. And therefore, we have 2 months to generate a maximum of pressure from countries. Like now, all the countries that care about international law should take the mic and speak up and go to see Donald Trump and negotiate with them. Because if they don't do that, basically the far west could be the high seas. And all the multilateral and all the negotiations that we have been having victories on for the past decades would be useless if Trump goes to mine unilaterally. So countries have a huge step to take right now, but the private sector also have a major responsibility, and maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that context. I think it's important to hear from an expert, especially when we get those breaking news alerts on our phones. So appreciate you sharing some of those contexts. So both of you are driving change through pretty bold approaches on the ground and in diplomatic circles. How does citizen and grassroots mobilization support your work, and what role does it play alongside policy advocacy and technological solutions?
Yeah, so well, in our case, as I previously mentioned, our value change starts with and thanks to fishermen. Fishermen were the first one to believe in our solution, the first one willing to try it. And at the end of the day, they are the ones more capable and with the biggest knowledge to perform that type of job. And I always get asked, like, how we manage to include these communities, how we deal with them. And I promise you, it's the easiest part of our job. They have amazing knowledge. They are willing to be part of it because they are the first one to be affected. And they want new opportunities. They are interested in being trained. They are interested in become blue actors. And sadly, most of the times, they are not given the opportunities. For me, it's not only how they help us or how grass communities or society can be included, is that it must be included. We should not conceive solutions without the people that are being affected having a voice on how it's solved. And this also includes, for example, students, youth people, the ones that are currently being trained to be the future leaders, the ones that sadly are going to be the most affected ones, but specifically the ones that have the biggest energy, the biggest interest, and they need the opportunities. And it's our responsibility to create them because we are in the spaces to do so.
Yeah, wonderful. What about you?
Well, for us in the world of deep sea mining, the movements of opposition to this industry have been really started by us, by civil society, by regular people. And it's really an example of the fact that activism works. Because 2 years ago, basically 0 countries were opposing deep sea mining. And now we have more than 32 countries that are for a moratorium or oppose on this industry, according to what the scientific community is asking for. And this was basically done thanks to a massive mobilization from grassroots organizations, from NGOs, from scientists, from parliamentarians, from diplomats, from ministers and heads of states, etc. And so it's a very, very collective movement that is happening on all continents that were able to push for a moratorium on this industry. And that is really an example of hope. Because when we mobilize, when we take action, whether it's on the ground or on social media, it has a huge impact. And that's why we need to mobilize right now because, again, we have this massive threat by Donald Trump. But we also managed to have a massive mobilization from the private sector. And that is as important as the political mobilization. For instance, we have financial institutions such as the World Bank, the European investment banks. We have companies such as Volvo, Volkswagen, Renault in France, Samsung, Google, who joined the moratorium on deep sea mining, saying we won't buy the metals from the deep sea, or we won't fund companies that want to go against the scientific consensus and international law. And that is as important. So as I know, there are many businesses here. If you want to do something useful for the ocean and that doesn't cost you anything, join the moratorium on deep sea mining. This is very urgent.
Perfect, and it actually leads me into my next question for you all, which is more around cross-sector collaboration. So we've just kind of talked a little bit about how important collaboration is to your work. And I'd love to hear about the role of the private sector in helping to protect the deep sea and other shared ocean resources like seaweed. So how can we partner across science and business and activism to help us do more faster?
Well, so usually we, the private sector, we are seen as the bad guys, no? And it's without no reason. Like in the past, private sector has been responsible and is continue being responsible of many of the challenges we are confronting. But I think this narrative is changing, and what a bigger place to see that here in ChangeNOW. We are seeing solutions, we are seeing startups, we are seeing private companies not forcing us to choose between ecology and economy, but creating spaces for both to thrive, including society, economy, and the sustainable development. We cannot do anything alone. We are all part of the value chains. We all are affected by the same things and can benefit from the same things. The academic sector is crucial. They are training the future. They have the knowledge. They have the ability to provide that knowledge. But that knowledge needs to reach the people. And to reach these people, we need the private sector. We are the executors, the one that can make products, that can make services that people can access to. And for that, we need also the politics. We need laws. We need legal frameworks that protect us, that benefit us, and that ensures that everything that is done in the proper way. And of course, NGOs and grassroots organizations to advocate for those ones that don't have voice, and for those ones that many times are overlooked, and for those challenges that many times are unknown.
Thank you.
Well, as for me, I would say that usually, as I'm an activist and a scientist by training, and usually we see activists and the political spheres like not going along with one another, and usually fighting and not being the same sphere, I would say. But to take a very concrete example of the benefits, I think, of the collaboration between the private sector, activists, scientists, and the political people. Basically, when we started mobilizing 2 years ago about deep sea mining with some activist friends, such as Camille Etienne, which you might know if you're French. He's a big climate activist in France. We basically started by mobilizing about deep sea mining to talk about it and to say what is happening, to explain the science, to explain to journalists, to take basically a big step to show how deep sea mining is a very big issue. We managed to generate a position from France, which took the most ambitious position today on deep sea mining, which is in favor of a total ban on deep sea mining, and that was really thanks to like big collective efforts from all of us. And after that, we basically managed to work together with the French diplomats, the administrations, the ministers, to firstly explain and lead this position in the negotiations, and also to continue to mobilize other countries to join this coalition for a moratorium or a pause on deep sea mining. And it was really a victory thanks to both of us, like the activists and the scientists and the political spheres. And while doing that, we also managed to trigger like a movement from the private sector with all the companies and institutions that I quoted earlier. Seeing that the movement on deep sea mining is growing, these institutions were like, okay, it's not even financially viable, so I'm not going to be a part of it. And also it would be against international law, accessory.
There's that. I want to ask you both, what do you wish more people understood about the invisible or overlooked ocean threats that both of you work on?
So I will say that currently we are experimenting crises that 50 years ago were unimaginable. And that will be true 50 years later. We don't have the capacity, the tools, the system prepared for what is coming. And it has happened with sargassum. When sargassum first started arriving and being massively overtaking our shores, the government didn't even know who was responsible to solve that, which ministry and which law. In the legal frameworks, were sargassum and seaweed was not even there. So what we are going to do, how we can solve a problem if we don't have even the beginning of the tools to do so. So we need to be prepared. We need to have established solutions. We need to have as many tools as possible, because of course we are not going to be able to read the future and to see it. But we can be prepared, and we can prepare the future generations for having them. And unknown challenges also are unknown because media is really politicized. We need it to be covering more the reality of the world, and specifically the reality of the global south, that sadly many times is overlooked. And we only not suffer crises, but we also solve them. And the solutions can come from the global south, and they are already coming from the global south. So we must switch also the eye to start looking to these new regions that not only need help, but they can help too. And as the last thing I want to say, I said previously that we are here are the ones that have the voice, and that we must advocate, and that we must be the voice of our communities, and that we also must advocate for things to be changed. But we are here thanks to others. I'm here thanks to MIT Solve. We are here with our exhibitors thanks to GECO Ecopreneurs Awards. I've been supported by organizations such as the Rockefeller Foundation. And I want to here say first, thank you, but also to add more people to do this, because solutions are there. We have seen here, we are not longer on the time of innovating or researching. The solutions are here. What we need is support. And we need this type of organizations that are there, and now we that are here, to continue seeking for these unknown challenges, but also these unknown solutions.
I love what you said. For me, I think what I wish people would know about this, the unknown challenge, which is deep sea mining for my part, is the fact that we collectively can do something to protect the common heritage of humankind, which is the ocean and the deep sea. Something that is very, very important to know is that when we take action, like on our couch, for instance, like tagging a minister on Instagram or signing a petition or whatever, it might seem that we are not doing anything really relevant because we are alone. But just know that when we are tens of thousands doing it, it has a huge impact. And so for us, basically, this is what we're enabling us to open the doors to the ministries and to go lobbying them and to go talk to them and to shift the positions of entire countries. And same thing for companies. So what I would say to finish is that get involved with us, because now more than ever we need everyone on board, because we can win against the other at the other side of the Atlantic. So contact me you will find me on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever. We are going to post actions very soon on those platforms. And if you're a business, contact me as well, because joining the moratorium doesn't cost you anything, and it has a huge, massive impact. So yeah, we can do it, basically. That's what I would say.
Amazing. Well, give it up for these two ladies that are doing incredible work. Find them afterwards so you can connect about it and support them. Thank you both for being here. Alrighty, I'm so excited to introduce our next speaker. We have Hanli Prinsloo, is the founder of I Am Water Ocean Conservation and a young global leader at the World Economic Forum. With a background in social political documentary filmmaking, Hanli has traveled the world speaking and telling stories of transformation, hope, and inspiration. Focusing on her sport, Hanli excelled at competitive freediving and as a sought-after coach, having worked with professional rugby players, cyclists, runners, and big wave surfers. At present, her energy is channeled into ocean conservation through human experience, reconnecting people with nature through the innovative I Am Water Ocean workshops offered to underserved ocean communities globally. Recently, her work has expanded to designing and launching the first ever sustainable freediving brand, Oculus. Join me in welcoming Hanli to the stage. Good to see you.
Good morning. Hope you're all having a good morning. My name is Hanli, and I'm excited to share with you today about your connection to the ocean. And that might feel like a stretch when we're sitting in Paris, but at least the sun has come out and we're next to the river. So let me invite you to have a little journey with me as we start reconnecting with where we come from. So even though you're sitting in the Grand Palais in Paris, join me on an aquatic journey. So uncross your legs if they're crossed. Sit up a little bit straighter. Get comfortable. And bring your hand onto your belly. Yes. And as we all have gone through the intense security to get in here, you are clearly in a safe space. So I invite you to close your eyes. And let's breathe. Inhale slowly to feel your belly expand. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale. And as you keep your eyes closed and your breath flowing, I want you to imagine yourself where you are sitting right now. So imagine you're just hovering above your own head, looking down on you. You might remember what you're wearing, you might remember who you're sitting next to, and then zoom out. Look at yourself from higher up under the roof of the Grand Palais, and zoom out. So you're looking down at the whole of Paris, and zoom out, up into the sky, into the atmosphere, looking down on this one perfect blue dot. Should never have been called planet Earth. It should always have been called planet Ocean. The only blue as far as the eye can see. And as you slowly come down, back into our atmosphere, back above Europe, back above Paris, and back into your own body, take one last big breath in. Open your eyes and sigh it out. And maybe this is what you looked at when you were up there looking down. More than 70% of our Earth's surface is covered by ocean. More than 70% of your body is water when you are born. Our tears cry the same salinity as the ocean. We come from the ocean. Our first 9 months are spent in a watery world where sound is muffled and sight is dim. And then we are born into this world of sight and smell, and we take that first breath, and every day we breathe. And we forget that we come from water, and we think we are terrestrial, when in fact we are ocean creatures, ocean beings, and our bodies remember water. So my journey back into water came through freediving, apnea, the holding of the breath for exploration, for diving deep. In freediving, we dive as deep as possible, as far as possible, and as long as possible. And now that you've been practicing your breathing in and out, and zooming in and zooming out, I invite you to join me on a dive. And I want you to take a few deep, slow breaths to prepare. And this is a discipline in freediving called dynamic apnea, no fins. So swimming as far as possible as you can on one single breath of air. This is many years ago when I was trying to break a South African record of 75 meters. 75 meters in a swimming pool was the South African record. I've taken my biggest possible breath in. Those of you who want to join me, take a big breath in and hold your breath. Thank you. Let's dive. I've started the dive with a big breath of air. I've got a green tube around my neck, which is filled with lead shot to keep me down. Anybody who's swum in a pool before will know that half your energy is taken by just staying down, right? So I can relax and swim slowly. That's 25 meters, touch and turn. The South African record that I'm trying to break is 75 meters. I've done 80 in training, so I know I can do it, but I'm nervous, so can I do it when I'm nervous? So let's see. So I'm trying to relax as much as I can. I'm trying to slow down my thoughts. Our body uses most of our oxygen that we take in is used by our thoughts. So make sure your thoughts are of a high enough quality to warrant the use of your oxygen. So here I'm touching, who's still counting? 50 meters. So at about this point, I'm still quite relaxed. I'm slowing my mind down. I'm using a visualization, imagining myself swimming with a pod of dolphins that I've spent many, many years with on the coast of Mozambique. And I'm literally telling myself, I am a slow dolphin. I am a slow dolphin. I am a slow dolphin as I swim. So here I'm coming up to 75 meters. At this point, my body is starting to ask me for oxygen. My diaphragm is starting to contract to make me breathe. I'm starting to become aware of the breath. I'll touch and turn. That's 75 meters for those of you who are counting. So round about here, I've broken the South African record. But I feel really strong. The slow dolphin visualization is working. So I think I'm going to keep going a little bit longer. I'm going to keep going as long as it feels possible, as long as I can. So I keep going. Now you can see I'm starting to swim a little bit faster. My muscles have started using lactic acid, so I'm not using oxygen anymore, so I can use my muscles more strongly. So there I've turned at 100 meters. So I'm speeding up because I'm trying to not waste space while I'm not wasting oxygen. And at this point, I'm telling myself, I can see the tiles, I can hear my thoughts, I'm fine. I've got more oxygen left. I can keep going. My coach is knocking on the side of the pool, wondering if I actually know what I'm doing. I touch the wall at 125 meters, and I come up at 126 and breathe, and breathe, and breathe. Who's still holding their breath with me? Tom? No. Okay. For those of you who tried, I appreciate it anyway. Thank you. So on that video, when I came up from that dive, I was strong. I had to do my surface protocol. In free diving, you have to take off your facial equipment, show an OK sign at the judge, not at your friend or your coach, at the judge, and say, I'm OK. And if you can't do those three things in that order, you're disqualified, and your whole dive was worth nothing. So I came up, I took off my mask, I showed the OK sign, I said, I'm OK, I waited, I got the white card. My dive was a new record, a new continental record, a new Swedish record, a new Nordic record, a new South African record. And my coach said to me, you came up at 126, I never knew you could swim that far. And I said, me neither, it just felt really good. And he said to me, you do know the world record is 127. I didn't even know what the world record was at that point because it didn't matter. I was going for 85. So why would I even think of 127? And so that much is about a meter, right? Was how far I was from the world record. What you couldn't see on that video is that my lips were blue when I came up. My hand was shaking. I came up on the edge of my oxygen. I didn't have this much more in me. On that day, 126 was my maximum capacity. And freediving for me is this beautiful learning of what is possible and what's actually not possible. And respecting that, but challenging this, and finding your own answer to that. I sometimes feel like I'm an anti-motivational speaker because I don't actually think everything is possible. And I don't want to get up every day and do something that scares me. It sounds like a terrible way to live. But many things are possible. And many things should be done. So finding out for yourself what is possible and what should be challenged is the sweet spot of purpose. And my journey continued from competitive freediving into exploration. Being able to hold my breath for 6 minutes and dive down to 70 meters gave me the opportunity to go to places, meet creatures, and explore environments that I could never have imagined. The Hanli you see sitting on the boat here this day is scared out of her mind. We are 3 hours boat ride from the coast of Sri Lanka. We're above a trench that's 3 kilometers deep. And we've just been surrounded by a giant pod of sperm whales. I've never been in the cachalot, been in the water with a sperm whale. I've never seen a sperm whale, but I've studied them. I've spoken to researchers. I've read about them. And for those of you who have studied or had the opportunity to meet sperm whales, their intelligence is so beyond that we still quite don't have the words to describe it. People use words like they can be telepathic, they have memory, they have shared consciousness within the pod. And I'm sitting on the side of the boat. I'm a freediver. I'm an ocean conservationist. I believe I have a purpose in ocean conservation. And I think, what if I get in the water And this whale can read my thoughts and read my feelings and finds me lacking. What if what I'm doing isn't enough? What if I'm not good enough? And the whale can see that because it's beyond our words and what we choose to say. They can see your heart. And I get in the water, and the second I get in, these two huge females turn and they start swimming towards me. And now if you know, a sperm whale has the loudest and most powerful sonar in the world, stronger than what any military can create. At depth, they can shock a giant squid into unconsciousness for hunting them. And these two females turned and they started scanning me with a gentle sonar, and it felt like a sledgehammer on my chest. Scanning, scanning, scanning. And I opened my arms, and the only thing I could do was say, "You're so big, you're so beautiful, thank you for letting me be here. You're so big, you're so beautiful, thank you for letting me be here." And they came around and swam right past me, looking straight in the eye. And then as one, this pod of sperm whales took a giant breath in and they dived. And no training in the world, no competitive freediving, no record can prepare you to dive deep with a pod of sperm whales. You have to let them go. And they went down to over 1 kilometer deep to hunt giant squid. I swam with them to about 40 meters and then had to come up to breathe. And I came up with a sense of loss, the sense of feeling bereft, of wanting to have spent more time with them. The other, the greatest. And I see this small shape coming out of the blue. And a baby sperm whale swims up to me. And what I'd heard from the scientists before the trip is when there is a baby in the pod that is too young to do the deep dives with the adults, they leave the baby with a female babysitter at the surface. And whatever those two mamas saw that day in me, I was the babysitter. And for the 45 minutes that they hunted at depth, this little whale and I played baby whale games. I would dive down, and then she would come down, and then we'd swim around each other, and then obviously I would have to breathe, so I would go back up to the surface and take a breath, and she'd be like, "What are you doing? Why do you even have to breathe? This is so boring." And then I would come down again, and we swam, and we interacted, and we shared time. And deep down below, we heard the adults ticking and clicking and hunting, and then they came up again, and as one, the baby joined the pod, and they swam off. And this moment in time, this moment of connection with a species so other, so great, so powerful, left me forever changed. That we can interact with something so big. I feel so small when I'm with whales, but the second I come back onto land and I step back into our human world and I come back to our species, we are so powerful, we are so great. We are the greatest, that we hold the beauty and the size of a sperm whale in the palm of our hand. So whether or not you want the job, you're also the sperm whale's babysitter. Because for whatever reason, our species has the greatest power on this planet. We do not deserve it, don't get me wrong, but we have it. And with that comes great responsibility when you think of the kind of consciousness that we can influence. And from these travels and all these experiences, for me, it wasn't enough to see the great. It wasn't enough to break the records. How do we share this with others? How do we get people to connect with the ocean and feel that love and feel that what the ocean gives us, what we are part of when we're on this planet? And as a South African, every time I would come home to South Africa, I'd stand on the beach, I'd go into the water, and I'd see who's on the beach and who's going into the water. And if you ever play that game when you're on the beach next, see who's on the beach and who's going into the water, and start thinking about access and start thinking about equity. And if we want to talk about protection and if we want to talk about conservation, we have to talk about who's going into nature, who is connecting with nature and feeling their hearts open and their behavior change because of love, not because of fear or rules or regulations or data that scares the living crap out of us. We act when we love. We have so much data, we have so much information, we haven't acted. So if all the information can't make us change, it has to be something deeper. We have to open hearts to the natural world. So I started I Am Water, a nonprofit that works with taking children on experiences in the ocean to protect what they love. And let me give you a moment of what that looks like in Cape Town. Can we have the sound?
So they can fall in love with it and love protecting it.
I'm feeling totally nervous today. I'm scared of the water.
On our Ocean Guardians workshops, we have grade 7 students from local schools come to the beach and learn about their oceans. The workshop consists of 2 days. The first day, the experiences are had at a beautiful local tidal pool. On the second day, we bring them to one of our incredible pristine marine protected area beaches.
These ocean conservation workshops are important to the kids in our community. Some of them don't really come out of good homes. Some of them can't even swim. So to bring them out a little bit of their comfort zone gives them that confidence to show them that they can actually do anything that they want to do.
The Ocean Guardians workshops have 3 stations. We do rocky shores exploration, a beach cleanup, and a snorkel station.
Our goal is that whoever was afraid, whoever had that fear, comes out with love and want to teach more people that everyone can overcome these fears.
It was the first time for me to snorkel. The ladies spent more time with me. Now I know how to float. I absolutely want to do it again.
We had a lovely time and the seaweed it came on your dinner again. Bang! But I did love it. And thank you for everything.
And I can tell you, thank you. And I can tell you that there is no freediving record that's ever given me greater joy than seeing eyes open underwater for the first time. And as a freediver, my journey continues from taking children into the water to running a small travel company, taking people on exquisite trips around the world to experience interactions with big animals, and clients saying, what equipment should we buy? And realizing that ocean exploration equipment is not built for sustainability or durability. So launching, can I get my clicker to? So launching a brand that builds sustainable freediving equipment so that you can explore the ocean without damaging the very ocean you love. And I grew up on a horse farm outside Pretoria in South Africa. I never thought I'd stand on a stage in Paris. I never thought I'd start a brand or a travel company or a nonprofit that now trains organizations around the world to do ocean connection. But I knew that I love, and that I will forever love the ocean. And love triggers action. And every good story is a love story. Every good story. If you think of what you truly love, who you truly love, and how you would act if that was threatened, that's the impetus you want every day to do what you have to do. And it might not be the path you expected, it might not lead you to the places you expected or doing the things you did, but wake up every morning looking for that. Let that be your true north, because we have all the information, we have all the knowledge, we have everything we need to make the right choices. We just need the impetus, the inspiration, and the love to want to do it every single day. Thank you.
I don't know about you all, but I have a new life goal of being a whale babysitter. So I'm going to call up my boss after this and let him know. Thank you all to all of our speakers, Vincent, Hanli, Anne-Sophie, and Elena, for helping us surface the urgent and often invisible challenges of our ocean. From the microscopic power of plankton to deep sea ecosystems and community-driven innovation, today's conversations has reminded us that protecting our oceans is not only a climate imperative, but a human one. Let's carry these insights forward as we work towards a more just, resilient, and regenerative future. Thank you all for being a part of it.